It
Great.
is starting. It's recording. We're good.
Thank you. So welcome to day 3, everybody, of the Embodied Trauma Conference. I'm super excited to have you all here. And we have a very special, hi, Kathy. We have a very special guest with us, guest speaker here today, Ariel Giarretto. Ariel is a body-oriented psychotherapist, a trauma specialist, and a somatic sex educator. She's the co-developer of the Full Embodiment Model, which offers gentle, transformative workshops for people wanting to heal from the effects of sexuality, gender trauma, sexual abuse, and disembodiment. She works with clients with trauma and has taught hundreds of practitioners about embodiment in workshops she offers around the world. So welcome, Ariel. It's so lovely to have you here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be part of this amazing conference with these amazing people.
And I don't know if you've heard, we have a very large number of people registered for this event. So there are people on the call, people will probably be trickling in, but we also have a very large number of people who will be watching the recordings. And I think the topic of embodiment is very interesting for people right now in trauma and what the role the body plays. But the big question that comes up for people is, what if I can't get there? And this is what we have you here to speak to. So thank you very much.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. And I've had to learn this kind of from the front to the back, meaning here I've been working with the body, for decades. And, as a somatic experiencing teacher and now as a somatic sex educator. And it's my #1 passion to support people in connecting to their bodies. And yet, all of you out there who perhaps either work with the body or have experiences in your body yourself, you realize that there's a lot of people who don't know how to do it. And I get an enormous amount of do a lot of supervision with somatic experiencing students and graduates. And often their #1 question is, what do I do when I ask my client, what are you noticing in your body? And they look at me blankly, or they say nothing, or the favorite one is, I don't know, or they freeze, dissociate, right? And so I've realized that even in the somatic experiencing training, it's such an advanced skill to just close your eyes and go inside and to be able to identify sensations. It's a super advanced skill. So as I work more and more in the specifics of sexual trauma and sexuality, I realize how much foreplay in the body needs to be done first. I just said that off the top of my head.
We can handle it.
So, what needs to be done first? How do I even begin to encourage people's own interest in their body? How do I discover their own impulse, their own desire? And so #1, and I think many of you recognize this, is to respect their hesitancy, that there's a very good reason why they don't want to feel their bodies, why it's frightening to feel their bodies. And our job is to not give up. A lot of practitioners have said to me, well, I just don't ask them those questions anymore. I realize I can't do somatic experiencing with them. We're just going to do talk therapy. And I go, no, this is even more important. So we have to be tenacious as clinicians, and we have to be tenacious as more fully embodied people. But the key is to take time and to go really slowly. And so, #1, which makes complete sense, is that you have to get the client or the person's consent, right? I mean, consent is such a big topic right now. And you also have to support their own curiosity and their readiness at their pace. And so obviously the goal is to find a way that does it in a completely safe and non-threatening way. The other, and that's what we're going to be doing today, is a number of exercises that will support people in finding different ways of experiencing their body. But another very useful exploration that I found is to actually ask the client why. Like, what do you think might happen if you feel your body? I want to understand, what the meaning is or the fear is. And if I can understand what their hesitancy is, well, it's going to be too much, or I'm going to get lost in memories, or I'm going to get flooded. That actually gives me a lot of the information that I need, the preliminary steps that I need to do to help people feel safe enough to go inside without any of those things happening. And so often you also have to ask the right question. And so my favorite question of all is there any small, little, tiny part of you that might like to possibly learn to be comfortable in your body at some point, right? I mean, we're getting so much permission here. One small part of you that would perhaps like to find pleasure in your body. Or is there any small part of your body that you'd like to make friends with, right? So that's their impulse, that's their desire, that's their interest. And I haven't actually encountered anybody who has said, no, absolutely not. It's mostly, well, okay, maybe, right? So there you have it. You have them moving towards you with their desire, their impulse, their interest. So then from there, I can ask the question, well, is there a part that interests you? Like, what would you like to start with? So I might hand it back to them. And if they don't have an answer, then something that I find is really, really super useful, which is so obvious, it's amazing that we don't think of it more often, which is these everyday embodied experiences that we already have. And so those of you in the audience, you can do this, we can do this together, right? So the first most obvious one, and we actually learn this in the SE trainings, is just to be able to sense what's most obvious right now, right? So we have the good old floor, right? Just being able to notice the floor. And of course, being able to notice the chair or whatever is supporting one's weight. Most of us know to do that, but it is a really, really nice place to start. Yeah, because we're feeling the outside, we're feeling the periphery of the body. We're nowhere near the inside of the body. But by being able to sense the outside, we're already beginning to, open up proprioception and get the brain engaged and all those good things. Yeah. The other thing is to then ask questions that as they contact that, help them to develop a language that helps them to just notice what happens when I feel the floor. And I might have to give them a menu of words. I want to help them develop a language for their experience. Well, it feels firm. And so those in the audience, you can do this too. What are some words that you find as you connect to the chair? I feel stable, I feel safe, I feel present, right? And
maybe if you want to write in the chat box, if anybody feels like sharing, you don't have to, but if you want to share, you can.
Great idea. And as small as this might feel to those of us that are comfortable with embodiment, it can be a very, very big deal for people who aren't. And I will celebrate this victory and say, look, you're embodied right now. It's kind of a sneaky way of saying, okay, we're embodied right now. They might get all embarrassed and go, no, that's not true. And we'll use that, obviously, as a kind of resource, if you will, that when they find themselves leaving themselves, they can come back to the floor, they can come back to the chair. Super, super basic, right? Many of us know how to do this. The next step is I give them homework and send them home, with really simple everyday activities. Something like, and again, those of you in the audience, just the feel of sun or wind or coolness on the face. How do you begin to detect and take in the sensations of, the seasons or nature? Yeah. And almost everybody has had an experience of sun or coolness or wind that they can remember.
You can all try this if you'd like.
Please do. Everybody, just being able to come into and remember, a moment of being kissed by the sun. Yeah. And so we'll spend some time just really enjoying. And we can also take that into something like the shower, you know, with water. These are exercises that Peter developed a long time ago, like just taking the shower wand and, you know, just allowing people to very slowly discover what parts of themselves enjoy the feeling of water. And so I might literally just work with this for weeks as they learn to realize that I can sense something and it doesn't overwhelm me, and it can be revelatory. Another excellent resource, of course, are pets. Yeah. You know, the feeling of my, I don't have a cat, but I have a bird. They're not quite as cuddly as some animals, but, you know, the feeling of a cat or a dog on one's chest. And, you know, again, we'll take time and imagine in the office, or I'll just invite them just to sit with their pet for a moment and notice what the effect of the pet on their chest or in their lap, how does that affect their body? Do they feel more relaxed, right? Give them some words. Do they feel more present? Do they feel an expansion, right? And how does it feel to their hand to connect with this animal? Can they drop into, so we go from the feeling of the pressure or the weight of the animal to how their hands are literally taking in the softness. And that can be a beautiful exercise for people that are terrified and whose pet perhaps is their biggest resource. Yeah. And so we start to explore that pleasant experience. Like, how do you know when it's pleasant? What are the indicators in your body? And again, those of you in the audience, you can say, how do I know that when I pet my animal, that it's pleasant? What happens in the body? Is there a relaxation? Is there a deep breath? Is there a swelling of emotion in the chest? Those kinds of things. Another beautiful thing is obviously music can be something that people can hear that allows them access to their bodies. So we work with these kinds of exercises, and of course there's a million more, but some of the very profoundly phobic body people will begin to find enjoyment and pleasure in connecting that to their bodily experience. So that's one layer, and now we can go another layer. But just wondering how people are doing out there, and if you're enjoying this and all of this. Oh, there's a question. Can you do this with new parents? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a beautiful thing to do with parents. You know, I'm going to get off the topic, but, you know, parenting is so much often about doing something. You know, you're going to feed, you're going to clothe, but babies just love nothing but contact, just being there. It's absolutely gorgeous. So
Ariel, I just want to say there's quite a few comments in here as well. People are were commenting on what they were noticing when you were leading some of those. They're really enjoying it. And I wanted to say, you know, I think it's very interesting that a lot of this seems to be about, you know, helping people start to be able to contact sensation, then also give some language to it, almost like turning on the conscious awareness of what they're noticing. And it's beautiful for me as a parent that I support my kids like this. And just asking little questions when they make a comment, how do you notice that? Descriptive words and giving people a language is so powerful, isn't it?
Right. And that's one of the hardest things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is to find the words that describe something that's so
murky.
murky and strange. And it's really true. And how beautiful that you're doing that with your children so that they can access that part of their experience, their reptilian brains, right? Yeah. So anyways, those are some of the first exercises. Then to take us one step farther, and I will open it up for questions and everything, but this next piece of this is what I have found is most effective. And most of the clientele that I work with come from very extreme sexual trauma. So these are the tried and true exercises that I've been working with. And, you know, as soon as you start to let someone feel what it's like to stroke an animal, or to stroke a texture of something, like it could be a soft blanket, or it could be, you know, feeling their hands in water, like a basin of water. I sometimes have that in my office, just, you know, to be able to feel the sensation of water on the skin, to feel the sensation of soft things. I have, you know, lots of soft stuffed animals. And what that does is that begins to get them connected to touch. And when our clients have been traumatized, either sexually or not touched enough, touch can be, as we know, really, really activating for them. And so my intention here is to have their body learn from themselves first that touch is a possibility, and that they can claim and own what their body likes on their terms. You know, they can notice that their hand loves the feeling of the cat. That's them claiming their body. This is my hand. Then we'll move to an area of the body, and I'll often start with the hands, and we'll do this in the office. And so I encourage people to start to be interested with just finger touching finger. And how is it just to tune into, to notice the sensations of fingers and all the different areas. Like, my goodness, it's so different up here than it is there. They get people just absolutely riveted by one area, and to explore touch, and to ask the receiving hand, does it like light touch? Does it like firm touch? A lot of this is based on Betty Martin's work, The Wheel of Consent, which is where you are always shifting between different kinds of touch, but also noticing what the toucher is liking. So we shift from the experience of hands and all the different sensations, and then we shift and we start to tune into the touching hand. Like, what's the pleasure that the fingers are having as they explore this area? And then how different the arm is. Like, what is the arm like? So now I'm shifting my awareness again. So we do these shifting exercises back and forth between, oh, my arm likes to be held firmly. And how do I know that? Oh, because I take a deep breath and I don't like feather, that's too light, that makes me tickle. Okay, we don't like that. How do you know you don't like that? Yeah, and so we're really exploring the body. And now some people get very embarrassed doing this in the office, so we'll do this with our eyes closed, and I always do it with them. And we're getting very interested in just from here to here, that's it. Different ways of touching, and then noticing the pleasure that the other hand gets as it feels, oh, look at that. The feeling of the fabric is so different than that. And of course, this all has to be done within the, what do you call it? You know, within the attention span or the comfort zone of the client. Sometimes that's about all they can do. That's too much, right? It's just a little tiny bit. But again, I will send them home with these exercises to begin to explore their body on their terms. And I give them a framework, and I'll say, look, you know, your body, things were done to your body that you didn't ask for. And you want to claim your body back. This is your body. You want to claim it back on your terms. You want to inhabit it the way that you want to inhabit it. So I make it into an empowering thing. Yeah. And I'll sometimes say, don't let your abuser win. You know, You claim your body as yours. Yeah, and that can be you know, a very powerful sense of owning, taking their own body, their own experience back. So that's can be a very very wonderful exercise. So then the last thing that I'm going to go over with you, and then I will, you know, open it up and answer questions and all. And I love this, and we can all do this together. This is more advanced, right? So I'm going to lead you through about a 10-minute exercise. And those of you that are, you know, in the audience, if you want to turn your video off, if you don't want to be seen, although I can't see you, but I want you to be able to do this in the absolute safest way and do it at your pace. And if something comes up that feels overwhelming, stop. Don't do it. Don't feel like you have to do it. But this is the advance, right? So let's just say that we've gone through a lot of these embodiment exercises. People have learned to find pleasure in their body. And then the next layer is, how do I introduce every centimeter of the body as a place of pleasure and sensation? So this is the next level. And again, I just want to say we'll take many, 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 many weeks to get to this. So I start at the top of the head. And I do invite you to do this with your eyes closed. There's absolutely nothing to see. You can hear my voice. But we want to start to explore the head. Now, those of us that have hair, you can explore hair. Those of you that don't have hair, you can just explore your skin and your scalp. But we want to start to be interested. Again, we're just noticing our fingertips here. And we're wanting to be really, really curious about what the hair or the scalp feels like. We're experiencing textures. We're noticing that different areas of the scalp have different levels of sensations and very different levels of sensitivity. We're also shifting our awareness into our fingertips. And we're allowing our fingertips to have a great time with what they're experiencing, the softness, the warmth. So we're allowing our hands to enjoy. And periodically we're coming into the rest of our body. We're noticing the effect that the contact is having. We're staying present with our sensations. And next we're going to come down into our face. Again, exploring very, very slowly, forehead. Again, noticing the type of pressure that this part of your body likes. Does it like light touch? Does it like to be massaged and moved around? Does it like to be pulled a little bit and stretched? Coming into our eyebrows. The bridge of our nose, very sensitive place, not an area that gets explored very often. So we're just claiming our bodies here. We're learning about them. We're noticing all the differences in sensations and textures, muscles, skin, bones. Into the temples. Down into the jaw. Sometimes it's nice just to hold the face for a moment. And again, noticing the effect that your touch and your awareness has on the rest of your body. cheeks. And let's spend a little time with our lips. Space between nose and mouth, lips. Touching. And then let our tongue, let's explore the tongue in the mouth, the roof of our mouth. Again, you can shift between what the top of the palate is experiencing as well as the tongue. All the different areas in there. Teeth. And then very slowly move your tongue on your lips. Noticing what that feels like. Very slowly. Lips on lips. And then back to touch with your hands. Explore your ears a little bit. Again, noticing all the different nuances of sensation. You can squeeze, you can pull, you can move them around. What are your ears like? The place that connects into the skull and the scalp. And just feeling some of those really tender areas behind the ear and into the lobes. And then as we finish our head, we're just going to take a little rest here and just stop for a moment, let your arms relax, keep your eyes closed if you'd like. And just sensing into your head and scalp, your mouth. You might be able to notice a difference between the area that you just had contact with and the rest of your body. Now, when I'm working with sexuality, I'm always moving between and with no intention of getting anybody aroused. It's not about arousal. It's about being able to connect into my pelvic area just to bring awareness and sensation there while I'm touching other parts of my body. So if you feel comfortable, I want to invite you just to notice if you're feeling anything in your pelvis as you wake up your body. Always connecting those areas together. So now we're going to move down into our necks. Front of the neck, back of the neck. Again, exploring different speeds and pressures. Remembering to shift your awareness into your hands. Coming down into shoulders and arms. And like we did with just the one hand, explore, again, different pressures. Does your arm like to be squeezed? Does it like long strokes, soft strokes? Does it like to just be held for a moment? So pause and just hold. And again, just shifting into the rest of your body, noticing how it is experiencing this. Is it relaxed? Are you connected to it? Then coming into your pelvic area, into your genitals. Noticing if there's aliveness there as well. And kind of shift back and forth since we can't touch our backs, and just move our back and spine against wherever you're sitting. Hopefully it's a soft area. And just gentle movements of the spine and the rib cage. Connecting into the lower spine, the lower back. And then we're going to take our hands and continue our exploration in the front of the body, coming down into the chest, including the breasts. Just again, just allowing yourself to just sense into your breasts, into your nipples, seeing if you're willing to bring that part of you into your awareness right now. And you can experience or experiment with holding your breasts. What kind of pressure do they like? Sensing the sensitivity, the different sensations in breasts and nipples. Coming into your lower abdomen, around your lower rib cage. Again, experimenting with different types of touch that your lower abdomen, your stomach area, your intestines, what do they like? Sometimes, again, they just like to be held. Soft strokes. Remember to connect into your whole pelvic area while you do this. And the sides of your body into the outside of your hips. Just place your hands on your hip joints. And we're just going to take a pause there. And we're just going to rest and notice and check in. How is that to explore your body, your pace, your terms, inviting all of you here. So next we're going to explore around the pelvic area. You can start with where the abdomen, the torso connects into the legs, that little crease there. Top of the thighs, inner thigh. Again, just being really, really interested in all the different kinds of sensations that are happening as you take the time to explore yourselves. Are you allowing yourself to feel sensation in your genital and pelvic area? And again, this is all about choice. If you'd like to just cup either your vulva or your genitals, your testicles and penis, just hold them. But again, this is choice if it feels like too much. We want to start like with this sense of protection. This is my body. No one can touch or get near this part of my body without my permission. And I recognize that for many of you, this might be the first time you ever do this in front of 900 people or however many people there are. You're doing this in the privacy of your own room here. But just how is that? Just, again, we're not being sexual. We're not trying to make anything happen here. We are just including this part of our body. We are owning it. And we're also protecting it. And if anything gets too much, remember you can stop, open your eyes, come back out again. And again, just noticing any sensations that you might be having, either in your outer vulva, inside, your testicles, your penis. Just let those be there. Nothing to do anything about it. You're just sensations. You can also tune in to the perineum and the anus, your sits bones and your bum on the chair. Remove your hand and continue your exploration with your upper thighs, outer thighs. And again, we're just going to take a little pause here. Just let yourself be connected to your own body as much as feels comfortable. Noticing if you're feeling more now than you were 10 minutes ago. And then we'll just finish up by connecting with the knees. And if you feel like leaning over and contacting your calves, ankles, and feet, you can do that. Just so that no part goes ignored. Taking time. You can also just press your feet into the ground and move your toes and feet kind of like a cat does. It's another way of wakening up sensations. And again, we'll just take a pause. And anything that you want to write down that you remember, that you want to remember or experience, this is a good time to do it. So that's kind of what I call the basic practice of embodiment, of directing people, inviting people into these different parts, and do it through touch, through movement, get people up walking and feeling their pelvises. Self-touch is obviously beautiful. And just very slowly, again, we just do as much as the person feels capable of doing. And we might have to stop and take a few weeks off. But I give them the practice to do it at home. And I'm working with sexuality, I'll work more with self-pleasuring, and then doing these exercises with a partner. It's really, really nice to have partners do this together, different kinds of touch with each other. So, it goes on from there. Anyway, how are you all doing out there?
Wow. Yeah. So Ariel, first of all, thank you so much for leading that. I think I can imagine, and I could see in the comments that a lot came up for different people. A lot of very interesting things were happening, pleasure, things that they were noticing, but also people who were noticing discomfort, noticing some unease, and just, obviously respecting all of that and reminding everybody of the invitational nature of this, and to take good care of yourself. So if you need to do anything, get up, shift your body, even touch out and come back later, please feel free to do so.
Yeah. And like I say, it's all done on a very individual basis with what the person is capable of. If it gets to be too activating, we stop, So like I said, this was the advanced version, and not everyone can do this. So, but it's kind of a fun practice though, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I want to just say for anybody out there, I think some of the questions as well for you, were around, you know, the body feeling like a foreign place. And I can personally relate to this feeling as I got into my own trauma recovery, the body feeling foreign, and even as if it didn't belong to you, especially if you have a very, you know, a sexual abuse history or a sexual assault. And that feeling of this doesn't even feel like mine. It feels like it doesn't belong to me. And so I want to just, one, offer that as a testament to how we can reclaim ourselves.
Yes.
I'm definitely somebody who's experienced that, but also maybe you could speak to that a little bit. You know, how do we, I mean, of course I'm getting this, we start slowly with just small things, but maybe you could speak a little bit more to that, and then I have a follow-up question if it's okay.
Sure. So I'm missing the question. So how do I introduce this, or what's your question?
Just when the body feels like it's not even mine.
Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes, again, just these very, very simple, starting very simple, like, this is my hand. This is my hand, you know.
This is my hand.
Right? And all the different ways that I might be able to experience my hand. I can see it, I can feel it, I can move it, you know. A little bit of this isn't specifically answering your question, but often way before I do some of these exercises, I need to do a lot of boundary work, you know, where people can find their voice. They can say no, they can say yes, they can say stop. So I might need to do quite a bit of boundary work for them to be able to feel the capacity to protect and defend themselves. And then once they do that, they can begin to claim their body more as their own. So again, it's so individual about what needs to happen way before I get to this more advanced practice. And again, every person has their own way of feeling and finding themselves. I do a lot of artwork with people. I do this in my sexuality. I'll have people draw the outside, you know, like a gingerbread person, and we'll do a little bit of a tracking exercise, not quite including every part of the body, but just a scan. And then I'll have them look at this gingerbread person, and then with different colors, I'll have them circle the areas that are resourcing, that are strong, that they know they can return to. I'll have another color and have them circle the areas of injury or trauma. And then the third is I'll have them circle the different color, the areas that are absent or missing. And so they're able to look at this and see this. And then as they have more and more exercises, we'll keep looking at this and begin to notice what starts to fill in. The other thing that I like to do with people as a start is I ask them, let's just pretend that you have completely healed your trauma history. You're done with treatment. Like, when do you know you're done with treatment? What is what I call the ideal embodied self. So when I know that when I have claimed myself fully, what will that look like and feel like? And we draw that. And that's another beautiful way. We always return to this, the ideal embodied self that is an image. They can put it on their refrigerator or their mirror, right? And they can return to that. And we get up and we embody it. You know, this is who I am. I'm claiming my sexuality. I'm claiming all of me. I'm claiming my aliveness. I'm claiming my right to be here and my right to be here. And they have this reference, and we go back to it frequently. And we, you know, and so that's another way that people can begin to claim, like, this is my body and I have a right, you know, and we'll come up with sentences that help them. Is that kind of what you were getting at? Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. So there are several questions. There's some questions in the chat box, and I see one that is related to another one that someone posted in the Facebook group. So maybe I could share that with you, Ariel.
Sure.
It's related to, so how do you de-trigger automatic associations between touch and responses which were programmed in sexually abusive situations? And there was, related to that, possibly a question around, you know, touch and pleasure arousal that can come out of touch, and guilt that
Yeah.
comes on the back of that.
Absolutely. I mean, and this is about a 2-hour answer.
I know. I can imagine.
And you know, I'm not plugging myself here, but this is exactly what we do in the 3 days. Is we work, when I do the sexual abuse treatment program, it's all about how to deal with this. So again, the most simple thing is to, again, create a different relationship to touch that doesn't have anything to do with anybody else, you know. And so let's just say that someone puts their hand on their hand, or they touch their body and they have a flashback and they start to feel guilt and shame and horror at experiencing pleasure. So, or horror, or they're taken somewhere else. And so again, sometimes the questions are, or the direction is, can you stay here? And is there any possibility that there is actually pleasure in your touch right here, right now, right? We want to differentiate between what happened back then and bring them into the experience of the moment. Well, no, but I keep having flashbacks and I feel guilt and shame. Or well, actually, that's just an overcoupling. We're going to move that out of the way. And I'm going to say, right here, right now, you've got your hand right there. So I want you to stay here with it. And notice that you can take it off. That's your choice. And you can put it back on. That's your choice. And if that's too much, we start with that. So there's a lot of working with differentiating between what is actually happening now, asking the question about something that is slightly, mildly, or the possibility of pleasure, and helping people build the capacity to experience pleasure. And so, you know, even Peter, of course, Peter, you know, in a lot of his sexuality workshops, he says this over and over again. Look, even though you have been sexually traumatized, you can absolutely experience pleasure in the moment. And so we want to keep working on the experience of learning how to stay present with pleasure without it coupling to the past or guilt or shame. Sometimes that means we do have to go back and work some of those events. You know, we absolutely have to do that. But so much of what I do is exactly what the question is: bringing in pleasure, bringing in the awareness that this is mine, that I do this, I can stop it. And it's particularly important when you're working with a couple where the abused survivor, the abuse survivor has married or taken on a wonderful, loving, supportive partner. And they're always having flashbacks, or they're starting to feel pleasure and they have guilt and shame, and, you know, and so then you can use the partner, which is a beautiful thing. And instead of having people touch themselves, I'll have the partner, you know, just put their hand on the abuse survivor and have them keep attuning to, this is my partner now. This is their hand. This is fine. This is my consent. This is pleasurable. And if they have a flashback, bring them back, you know, orienting to, this is my partner. They're safe. They listen, you know. And it's really, again, I'm repeating myself, but it's differentiating the then from the now, you know. And again, a lot often has to go into getting people to that point. So
thank you so much, Ariel. That's really wonderful. Mickey, I'm wondering if we might take some questions from people, and if there is anybody who might want to raise your hand. Mickey, can you explain to people how they can do that? Is anybody who would like to ask their question on their own to Ariel?
Yeah, you'll have a little blue hand on your screen and the ability to ask a question.
Okay.
And if you have any trouble with that, you can pop your question in the chat. Ariel just answered a lot of them that were being asked. One was, how do you deal with the impatience of clients who want to see bigger changes right away, and they're suffering a lot and they feel like their process is slow?
Yeah. Well, you know, it so depends on what what the trauma and what the history is, right? I can't answer that without it being a very, very specific case, because sometimes what we're doing here with these embodiment exercises are quite overwhelming for people, and we actually have to slow down more. So often what happens is, as we do these little bits and pieces of something, and they begin to feel as if they are inhabiting themselves more, and they're feeling more relaxed, and they're feeling more present, they actually realize that the small titrated experiences are what's really helping them grow. You know, a lot of people that we work with, especially if we're working with sexuality, they often go to sex educators and they're given all these exercises and they're told all these techniques, and all of those things fail because they think they want a quick fix, but the reality is that the quick fix is too much for them. So I might actually ask them, well, you know, what's happened in your history when you've tried to get something and tried to move really quickly and your body hasn't been ready for it. And it helps them start to learn to respect their own pace. And when you do a lot of these kinds of exercises, people do start to change actually pretty quickly once you get the ball rolling. And they begin to feel themselves more, which feels like a lot. So that's all I can say. I can only go as quickly as their body allows me to, regardless of what their head wants. Sad but true.
Very good point. Thank you, Ariel. Mickey, can you, does anybody want to, no, okay, go ahead. You can facilitate the questions.
You know, someone says asexual people exist, and I want to say that most of what I'm doing has nothing to do with sex. It's the intention is not to get people sexual. The intention is to get people fully embodied and accepting of themselves. And if that improves their sexuality, that's great. So there are definitely people that push back. Like, why should I feel this? I don't even want to have sex. And that's fine. That's not the intention. I want there to be a sense of comfort in all parts of the self. So that's the intention of this.
Great, thank you for clarifying that.
And someone also said, you know, people die if they don't eat or drink, and they don't die if they don't have sex. And I want to fight you on that one, because sexuality is how people feel their aliveness. They feel their potency. They feel connected and intimate. And, you know, sex is profoundly underrated as something that's healthy and necessary for the body. It keeps us young, it keeps us alive, and most importantly, it keeps us connected to our partners. And so a lot of times I am working with people where, you know, especially as women go through menopause, I am done with sex. I don't want to have sex anymore. And the partner is going, come on, you know, and it's actually a kind of a, this is very controversial, but it's kind of a disservice to suddenly cut your partner off from sexuality, because that is where the intimacy is. And Daniel Amen, his book, Sex in the Brain, the whole book is about the research that supports why sex is important to us from a physical, mental, it's good for our brains, it's good for our circulation. There's a lot of really good reasons to be sexual. And if you want to choose to be asexual, that's absolutely fantastic. But I do whatever I can to support it more as a bonding. We need eating, we need drinking, we need food, but we also need touch and contact. And many of us are touch and contact deprived. And that's a real serious problem, I think. So inside out.
Inside out, thank you so much. How are the questions, Mickey? Do more people have questions they'd like to ask? We have about 6 minutes with Ariel, and I know she has some teaching this afternoon, but I don't want to miss out on the opportunity to have more questions answered. And we have someone who raised their hand, or
so if you can see people who raised their hands, I can't right now.
Can't. There's a lot of
okay, no, someone did, and it looks like it was put down again. So maybe you could just read some of the questions from the chat.
Someone who asks, how can Ariel work with dissociative survivors who may switch into different parts, including regress during one of these exercises?
Well, again, that's probably another 2 hours of an answer, because working with dissociation is a really, really big deal. Well, I mean, first of all, I have to talk about how I work with dissociative disorders, and what I'm always looking at, what triggers someone to shift into another part. And I work a lot with how do I bring more conscious awareness of coming back, into the wholer self. So I'm certainly not going to do any of these exercises until I know that people can stay present, because if they do that, any of these kinds of things in a place of dissociation, it's just re-traumatizing. So I would have to work with that dissociated person in a really, really, really slow, gentle way. And usually more, again, with working from the outside in, finding how they can come back into the present, either by pressing into the floor or coming into the chair, long before I do anything like this. So that's a much more serious situation. So.
Thank you.
Great.
Maybe I could mention one that's come up a few times. For a few people, they've commented on the word pleasure itself being potentially triggering.
Sure.
And yeah, where you would start, if you would even start with that word.
Yeah. Well, I might actually start with the word tolerable. Right? That's kind of a peripheral word. Or, I mean, we do obviously in SE a lot ask, is it pleasant or unpleasant? So pleasant is a little less triggering than pleasurable. But it's really important that people are able to distinguish between something that is pleasant, unpleasant, something that's tolerable. And a really important part when working with either pleasure or pleasant or unpleasant is to stay in the present, because it's really easy to go into the past and say, well, last time somebody touched me there, it was horrible and traumatizing. Or, even though my partner has my hand here and it's pleasant, pleasurable, and tolerable now, it could get worse in the moment, And so there's so much more coming back into, again, a new relationship with pleasure and being able to stay in the moment with it. And I think tolerable and measurable, manageable, it's very hard to say those words, are the words that I'll use as a kind of titrated peripheral way, and not, we have to walk our way towards the pleasure word, because it does have a lot of charge, has a lot of charge. Yeah.
Thank you, Ariel. There's a few people who've mentioned the boundaries thing, and they'd really love to know. You mentioned before you even get into this work, sometimes you're working really with establishing boundaries, so that when people sometimes, when they don't feel like they have agency, they might do what you ask them to do and feel like they have to comply. So how do you get to that consent with boundary work before you even get into this other work?
Yeah, the first thing I do is talk about the embodied yes, no, and the third is I need more time. So I'll have, I do these in groups, I do these with individuals, I even do these online when I'm working, at a distance. And so I'll have someone stand up and imagine something that they are an absolute yes about, yes for fighting racism and sexism, yes for cats, yes for world peace, yes for choice, right? And have them identify where their full embodied unarguable yes is. And we'll start with that. There's the standing up, there's an embodying it, and there's a gesture that goes with that. And then I'll have them find their full embodied, undeniable, unarguable no. What do they know about, sexual assault? They know about President Trump, whatever it is, right? What do they absolutely know about? And be able to identify that, so that when they're with their partners, they can find their yes, that's their genuine yes, not necessarily their knee-jerk reaction yes, but their genuine yes, as well as their genuine no. And then I also, again, same thing, stand up, gesture, make the sound. And we practice that a lot, and I have them practice that at home. And then the third one that's really, really important, that comes from Stacey Haynes' work, which is, I don't know, I need more time. And to be able to recognize that I don't often have a clear yes or a clear no. And so that's a little softer gesture. It's a little bit, I need a pause. I need time to go inside. So again, if the partner comes up and says, you know, I'd love to be intimate with you tonight, instead of an immediate no, it's like, wait a minute, I need more time. And sometimes when I need more time, there's a redirect, which is I'm not available for this, but I am available for that. So we never, you know, try to find and stay stuck in the absolute no, nor do we want to go into appeasement and go into a yes. We want to teach people, encourage people to take a pause and really feel what that genuine answer is. I have dozens of other boundary work. There's one I use with a rope, which I teach in the SE trainings, you know, where people make, it's about 10 meters. It's actually quite a long rope. People will make a very clear, safe boundary between themselves and the outside world, and spend a long time. And this is my boundary. This is my space. No one can enter it without my permission. You know, again, we practice moving those that violate our boundaries out of the way. There's the good old stop exercise that we learn in SE. So we do a lot of these boundary exercises. And sometimes, again, those need to be done for quite some time before people have enough safety to feel their body. So those are the preliminary steps to make sure they have a voice and that they can identify what's really, really genuine in them.
Ariel, thank you so very much for all of that. What I'm really sensing here is just how much is in here for people to begin to explore. And it's such an invitation. I feel like we're in so many ways going against a tide that many of us have experienced too in our culture around taboos, around sexuality, and not just sexuality, but just arousal, which is associated with sexuality. I mean, there's so much that we could unpack, and there's so many layers in here.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead. I just wanted to say thank you, because I think this is such an important topic, and I would love to have you back next year. Plug for the conference next year, everybody. Maybe to even explore deeper, because I think this is something that we really need to start to get into, even culturally, you know, individually as well.
Yes. So Mickey put up a website, but actually the better website is Full Embodiment.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, so we'd love to have you just let us know where we can find you, because Ariel's traveling. You give workshops around the world, and it would be an opportunity for people, if you go to her website, fullembodiment.com. .org, thank you. It's in the chat box, and we'll also link it in the email for tomorrow in case you need it again. Is there anywhere else, or should we just send people to the website? Is that the best place?
The best place. It has all the programs that I offer all over the world. There are 4 of them, and they're all really super different. And I'm doing 3 of the 4 here in Europe this year. So there's lots of different options for different people. Some are for general public, and some people can bring their partners, and some are just for, you know, professionals. The sexual abuse training is really for therapists to have a lot of these tools, you know, to work with their clients in a much more, you know, respectful, titrated way. And people love that one. So that's kind of fun. I like doing that one. So anyway, lots of stuff to talk about. You're right. It's limitless. And it's
limitless. Yeah. Is there one last thing you would want to share with everybody here about the importance of this work?
Well, I think I want everyone to realize how important their bodies are, all parts of their bodies, you know, and to really take time to enter into, either through touch or sensation or somebody else, you know, all these parts that are kind of like not allowed, and to make them into just basic, ordinary areas of our body that are there for our pleasure. And whether that's, you know, you do it by yourself or whatever, but really there's so much aliveness that can be found in us. That's so, so, so important. So I would just say, love your bodies, feel them, let other people love them and feel them too.
Oh, Ariel, thank you so, so much. I really, really appreciate that. And we're getting a lot of people saying thank you as well. I think there's probably a lot for people to digest here, and I just really appreciate you being here with all of us.
Great. Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I just stay on and read some of what people are saying?
Yes, sure, please. And then Ariel, I will also see you at one of your workshops in Europe this year. So. For everybody else who's still here, we're gonna do our coffee breaks. Mickey, I might actually switch you to host to help me with that because I'm not as adept as you. And the other thing is stay tuned at, I believe it's 4 p.m. Yeah, 4 p.m. Central Eastern Time, 3 p.m. GMT. Hannah Pauls is gonna be here talking about birth trauma. And she's a midwife. She'll be talking about that. So come hang out with us for that if you're interested in that topic. I think it will be interesting for everyone. And yeah, good. And then we will have the recording, of course, for Ariel's session available tomorrow. So if you want to rewatch and re-engage with some of the exercises she shared with us, you can do that. Mickey, I'm going to switch you to host, okay? So I can have you handle the coffee breaks. And maybe if you wouldn't mind just explaining to people how that works and how much time they'll have.
Definitely. So you will have 15 minutes approximately inside the room. And ideally you'll be in a group of about 5 or 6 people. And you'll be able to talk about the session, and this is completely optional. So if you don't want to participate, you can leave the room now. Because nothing else will be happening in the main room. And yeah, enjoy, guys. You're gonna get an invitation at the corner of your screen. It'll be really obvious, and you just click accept.
Bye, everybody, and I'll see you guys back here at 4 p.m. Central. Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you, Ariel. Bye. Ariel's still hanging out here reading, so you guys, I don't know if
I think some of these questions, I'm writing things down, so.
Yeah, great, great.
I think you were the luckiest because it was the most live for Julia. Yeah. It was literally live.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. It was fun for me. God, there's like 150 questions here. I mean, literally 150 questions.
Really?
Yeah.
How many people were online?
There weren't that many.
Yeah.
100 something. Yeah.
Are you on right now?
Oh, right now. I guess I should be. Bye. Bye, Mickey.
Bye.